So hello and welcome to today's video. So in the world of modern gaming, re-releases of all sorts of older games has become extremely common. From simple ports to remasters to full-on remakes. And it's fair to say that Rockstar games haven't really shied away from this re-releasing trend. The majority of their games since about 2014 or so have been nothing but older games. However, there is one Rockstar game in particular that back in its day helped define an entire console generation, and Rockstar have never acknowledged its existence. And that game of course is GTA VCS Stories, released on the PlayStation Portable back in 2006 and was the fourth best-selling PSP game of all time, clocking in at 4.5 million sales, and even more beloved by many of those who played it. The thing is, it's the only PS2 era GTA game that has never been truly re-released. If you want to get really technical about it, then yes, it did get a PS2 port in 2007, but you know what I mean when we're talking about re-releases. Every other GTA from this era has been re-released. Well, okay, except GTA Advance because, well, that was a Game Boy Advance exclusive. It also wasn't a success and nobody ever really talks about it. No offense intended to any GTA Advance fans out there. Anyway, with the GTA Stories games, they were more so designed as spin-offs for the portable market, as Sony were trying their hand at rivaling Nintendo here, while showing their console was in fact a portable PlayStation and was capable of near enough running the exact same quality games you'd expect on their home consoles. And much like the PS2, GTA took the crown as the best-selling PSP game of all time, with Liberty City Stories clocking in around 8 million sales. And because of that, in 2016, GTA Liberty City Stories found itself being ported to iOS and Android, alongside many other Rockstar classics, including the other GTAs, Bully and Max Payne. But fans had one question: where is Vice City Stories? It's 2026 and it seems that Rockstar just haven't bothered re-releasing it ever again. But why? Now obviously Rockstar have never made an official announcement as to why or why not Vice City Stories was never looked at again. But the most likely reason is to do with Phil Collins. Because, well, Phil is a very odd person when it comes to the world of GTA. And when I say that, I don't mean he's an odd person in reality, I'm talking about in context of GTA. Let me explain what I mean. Because unlike other celebrities who've starred in GTA before, like Ray Liotta or Samuel L. Jackson, they were hired to play specific characters. So when you see characters like, say, Officer Tenpenny for example, yes, Samuel L. Jackson played him, but this is Frank Tenpenny. What I'm trying to get at is, Phil Collins played himself, and was actually the very first person to portray himself in-game. And because of that, there's a lot of copyright issues surrounding Phil's image rights. Now I know what some of you might be thinking, the Definitive Edition just flat out reused the original recordings from Young Melee, Tom Sizemore, Ray Liotta and whatever, so what about Phil? Well, I will admit I'm not entirely familiar with the legalities behind that stuff, so I did some research on it, and apparently it's to do with Rockstar owning the full rights to the characters and the full rights to the recordings of the characters too, alongside something in their contract which may cover usage in that one specific game only, or possible re-releases for the future. And unlike say music, movies or TV shows, they don't have to pay any of these actors royalties either. So I don't know if any of the actors from the original trilogy got some kind of payment again when the Definitive Edition dropped. And I know this might sound scummy the way I'm going to word this, but this is a billion-dollar company we're talking about here, so it makes much more sense re-releasing some titles when you don't have to pay the original actors again. It makes it much more profitable. Now as for Phil, because he played himself, his rights are so much more different. Yes, Phil Collins is a character in Vice City Stories, but Rockstar don't own Phil Collins in any way, shape or form. Even if they tried to say yes, but Phil Collins is just a character in GTA, they wouldn't get away with that. Phil Collins is technically considered a licensed character, in the same way that Fortnite has real people in it like Travis Scott, Ariana Grande, Juice WRLD, Harry Kane on there. They, or people representing them, agreed to do so and were likely paid a fat sum too. Image rights deem that without permission, nobody can use Phil's face, voice, music, logos or any sort of iconography in any game, movie, TV show or even merchandise without permission, which usually requires a fee. Stuff like news is excluded from this kind of stuff and so is parody. But without any permission, you can't do anything with Phil's image, unless it's non-profit. Now, I know the way I've been wording this video makes it sound like that Phil Collins himself was objected to his image being reused again, but honestly I couldn't find anything if Phil objected to this, and it doesn't seem like he harbours any ill will against Rockstar, and his music's also appeared in GTA 5, so I imagine he's got at least a semi-positive view of Rockstar and GTA. And he's also not anti-gaming either, because he's mentioned quite a few times he's a fan of Crash Bandicoot. And I believe there's also some interviews where he gave praise over seeing himself in Vice City Stories, so I really doubt it's any objection from his end. I think it's the exact opposite. I think Rockstar just don't want to pay out money to relicense Phil's image again. Because while Rockstar do have to pay licensing again when they want to reuse the music, when it comes to somebody's image rights, that's a completely different matter. Now when it comes to licensing music, of course, if Rockstar can't renew the license, or for some reason they refuse, they can easily remove the music, can't they? They've done that in plenty of GTAs before. GTA 4, San Andreas, Vice City, you know, they've all had songs removed, or in GTA 4's case, replaced. But the thing with Phil Collins is because he played and voiced himself, they can't actually remove him from the game. Because also Vice City Stories was made over 20 years ago, they can't just get somebody in to redub Phil's lines and issue out a completely different model, because it would require doing that entire part of the game all over again, including reshooting the cutscenes with a new voice actor, and at that point it is just a question of why even bother. The point of these re-release ports are just to re-release the same game again with very little financial costs to you, so the risk to profit ratio is pretty low. Now as said, at least with the music you can swap it out like they have done multiple times, but it is really hard to do that with an actual person whose voice is still in the game. Like if Phil was in one cutscene only and didn't have any role in the story, you could probably swap him out pretty easily. But that is just my theory on it. I think it's just Rockstar not wanting to repay for Phil's image rights. But before we end the video, in September 2017, there was actually an ESRB rating for GTA Liberty City Stories, Vice City Stories, Midnight Club 3 and Max Payne 2, which were scheduled to come out on the PS4. Meaning that Rockstar definitely wanted to bring Vice City Stories to modern platforms, even if it's by the PlayStation backwards compatibility feature, the PS2 Classics I believe it's called. But obviously something happened behind closed doors that prevented all these games. Liberty City Stories is a weird one because this was after it released on Android. And Midnight Club 3 can probably chalk up to copyright issues because, you know, that does use a lot of copyright car brands. And a few months later, Midnight Club 2 was delisted anyway. But either way, the fact that an ESRB rating did come up for the PS4 version of Vice City Stories shows that Rockstar really wanted to do something with this game again, but something just stopped that. And I know I said it and I'm going to say it again, but I really do think it's something to do with Phil Collins' image rights, because he's the only real life celebrity who's appeared across the PS2 era GTAs as himself, and not as a parody. But that is it for today's video. Thank you for watching, let me know what you think down below, and have a great day, and hope to see you all at the next one.